Good evening. It is 7:33 on June 13th, 2023. I'd like to call to order the June 13th meeting of the Norwalk Common Council. If you will please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, God, liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Burnett,
Present.
Mr. Camacho,
Here.
Mr. Goldstein,
Here.
Ms. Najolski Eichner. Present. Ms. Smith. Here. Ms. Ayers. Mr. Uebelman,
Present.
Ms. Revoluz. Ms. Young. Here. Mr. Kites,
Here.
Ms. McMurr. Ms. Alterman,
Here.
Mr. Meek,
Here.
Ms. Shanahan. Here. Ms. Ayers. Ms. Revoluz. Ms. McMurr. We have 11. We have 11. We have a quorum.
11, we have a quorum. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 23rd, 2023. Do I have a motion? Mr. Hooverman? Any corrections, deletions, or omissions? I don't see anybody on raising their hand on. Again, any omissions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor of approving minutes as submitted? Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Meek abstains. Motion carries. Next is public participation. Is there anybody who has signed up in the audience to address the council? I know. Yours too. And Mr. Ralph Bloom, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to really thank the mayor and the council. You've reached a point, at least we're in discussion for the land for both the building and the parking at the library. I've been a board member for some years now. I know our shortcomings. We can do a lot better service to the public with the additional land, especially the parking. So please, I encourage you, continue with the negotiation. We do need the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Next, we have Betty Bono.
Good evening. I'm Betty Bono. I live at 35 Fifth Street. I'm speaking in regard to the vote on the option to purchase 11 Belden Avenue. I've lived in Norwalk for 40 years. I've used the library as a mom, a teacher of both science and language arts in the Norwalk Public Schools, a local author, a researcher, an avid reader, and a spender of way too much money on used books. My main message is that the 11 Belden Avenue on-site parking is essential for access to the library, and especially after this morning's Norwalk Hour article, I would contend that the city's acquisition of 3 Belden Avenue, while a very good thing, does not, as stated in the article, provide a, quote, long-term parking solution, close quote, for the library's main branch. As we all know, the main branch of the library sits on the corner of Belden and Mott, so 2 sides of the library are bordered by streets. The other 2 sides are bordered by the 3 Belden Avenue property slightly to the north and the parking lot that is a portion of the 11 Belden property owned by Jason Milligan slightly to the west. If the option to purchase the entire 11 Belden Avenue lot is not exercised by June 30th, Mr. Milligan may well put that no parking chain back up and proceed with his plans to construct an apartment building on the land. There are two no-brainers here, in my opinion. First, a library facility used by thousands of Norwalkers every month needs adequate on-site parking. I see this as an issue of accessibility. Second, our library is overdue for an expansion. Here's another no-brainer. Both the 3 Belden property and the parking lot portion of 11 Belden are essential to accomplish the twin goals of parking and expansion. Acquiring just 3 Belden is not a long-term parking solution, as that property will be needed to expand the library. It seems that there are at least 3 ways the city could obtain the parking lot portion of 11 Belden. First, it could buy the whole property, keep the parking lot piece, and resell the rest. Second, it could just buy the parking lot portion by negotiating with Mr. Milligan. I know that's your favorite thing to do. Third, the city could use eminent domain, though it may not save any money by doing this, since a judge, not Mr. Milligan, not the city, would set the price. What worries me is the city may not pursue any of these 3 options based on the thinking that both goals, parking and expansion, can be solved by just getting 3 Belden Avenue and letting 11 Belden go. That won't work. The reality is that even with both 3 and 11 Belden, there will be the bare minimum amount of parking needed for a library used by residents of Connecticut's 6th largest city, Norwalk. Think about the parking available to library patrons in much smaller communities. Think about Wilton, think about Westport. Here's another reality. If the city gets this wrong and fails to obtain the 11 Belden parking lot by whatever means, there will not be a do-over. There are only 2 pieces of adjacent property. If we lose one of them, it's lost for good. You can't magically create more land. And finally, I would encourage you to regard this as a lot more than a real estate transaction. Rather, it's the provision of vital access to a vital and much loved and much used facility. It's like plumbing and HVAC. It's something that's absolutely necessary for the use of a public building. I would also encourage you to seek out the opinions of library patrons. I'm fairly sure that most Norwalkers would agree that on-site parking and a renovated, expanded library are both essential for our wonderful library in this wonderful city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eric Chandler.
Eric Chandler, 101 Ledgebrook Drive, Norwalk. Thank you for this opportunity. First, I would like to tag on to what both Mr. Bloom and Ms. Bono have had to say. In addition, I'd like to add this. There have been quite a few future of Norwalk stories in the newspaper in the last few weeks. Improvements planned for Seaview Avenue. Improvements to Veteran Park, including building facilities so that Norwalkers can play inside when they go outside to play. And big doings and plans for the Wall Street corridor. And finally, a resolution to the POCO problem. But when it comes to the library at Belden Avenue and exercising the option to purchase the Milligan property at 11 Belden, adjacent to the library main branch, the only news is that there really is no news, despite the looming deadline at the end of June. We, us, know full well that should the option lapse, it will effectively kill any meaningful future expansion for the library and will exacerbate the problematic issues of access for the elderly, for the handicapped, and parents with young children. The purchase price option for the Milligan property is $1.75 million. I know that it can be an issue to deal with. Now, is that a reasonable price? To be honest, I have no idea. But to me, that's not the point. The question should not be, is the property worth it? It's not even, is the library worth it? The real question is, are the people of Norwalk worth it? It is a quality of life issue. Now, if Norwalkers deserve the future Seaview Avenue, the future Veterans Park, and the future Wall Street corridor, we certainly deserve a vibrant, easy-to-access library with plenty of room to grow. So I ask you to consider doing what needs to be done to acquire both 3 and 11 Belden Avenue so that the library can continue to grow and provide multiple services for the people of Norwalk. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody on the hybrid part of the meeting that wishes to speak? I think Miss Patsy Brescia has her hand up.
Yeah. Yes, I do, Mayor. Thank you. I actually would like to speak on 2 items that are on the agenda. One is the library, of which I am vice chairman of the board and have been on the library board for some 10 years as appointed by the first taxing district and have worked on this concept of adding the district property to the library and also other opportunities to expand the library and to provide us with the kind of facilities that we all really would like to see. And I know how hard all of you have been working to that end and how complicated it is, but I just wanted to add my voice and to encourage you to keep working on it and to get us what we really need at that location, which will also be such an enhancement to the whole Wall Street project, as the library will generate all kinds of additional people coming into that area of town. So I fully support what you're doing and request that you continue to do your good work in that regard. Thank you. And then on the agenda, there is an item for final item for Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum in the capital budget of $250,000 to be added to our grant. And obviously, I'm here to support that for the final item I think that we need to do before contracts are drawn.
That it? Is that it, Ms. Brescia?
Yes, it is. That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you. And next we have Tyler Fairburn, Tanner Thompson, I'm sorry. I thought we were on the Charter Revision Commission. Tanner Thompson, sorry.
I'm used to attending these meetings remotely and I forget that there's a sign up sheet, so my bad, sorry. My name is Tanner Thompson. I live at 16 Hillside Place here in Norwalk, and I'm the chair of the Bike Walk Advisory Commission. I'm here to speak about 2 things on the agenda. Since it's already on people's minds, I'll speak on the library issue, the Belden Avenue issue. As chair of the Bike Walk Commission, I'm not going to comment on the library itself, but I do want to make sure that part of this conversation that remains in the public sphere here is that we have huge investments going into Wall Street that will improve the walkability around the area, and specifically that it will make it much easier to get on foot from the library to the Yankee Doodle parking garage, which currently is pretty underutilized. And I think that's a huge asset that we should be leveraging when it comes to the library. I absolutely would love to see more people going to the library. I'd love to see a library expansion. I have no idea what that looks like, either financially or architecturally or anything. But I would support the library expanding its programs and expanding the number of people that it can attract. But I hope that we can leverage our existing assets to the best of their abilities. Also, I want to mention that the Norwalk Transit District, their hub is located right there next to the Yankee Doodle garage, and every single bus line in the city goes through that hub. I think that we can tap into these resources more. The other thing I wanted to comment on is the appointment of Nick Pappas to the Bike Walk Commission. It's also on the agenda. Nick has been very helpful in the commission's work in the recent months. He's been attending our meetings for several months and has volunteered in a lot of our recent events. He volunteered every day during Bike to Work Week when we had tables up around the city. He volunteered for the entirety of our Open Street event. It was the week before. And he's helped out with other organizational things. He's a solid guy. I found him to be very dependable, very sharp. And I hope to see his appointment to the Bike Walk Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Next, we have Diane La Rochella. I think you should unmute yourself if you would.
Diane, you have been promoted to panelist. Please take the mic.
So, sorry, there was a little time delay when I was being converted to panelist. Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council President Burnett, staff and council members tonight. My name is Diane Lauricella. I live at 21 Little Fox Lane in District E, West Norwalk. Tonight I have 3 items quickly I want to speak to. The first is the main library. Please find a way to buy the parking lot portion of 11 Belden Avenue. I think you should try to retain and sell the bank portion, as we are doing a great job getting Wall Street off the ground. That land will be worth even more and will be worth the brief time that we purchase the entire thing. But if you decide not to do that, at least negotiate the parking lot portion. That parking lot can have a solar canopy over it, and maybe the library could actually create some of its own electricity. Today, Nancy on Norwalk had an article where my full statements were slightly taken out of context. So the next 2 comments are, number 2, Lockwood Matthews Mansion. When I spoke at the last land use and building management meeting on the 7th of June, the agenda stated the money you will vote on tonight for them was additional. Now, I've been a big supporter of and was once a member of the board, but thank you, Greg Burnett, for clarifying that the wording of this agenda could have been better. And so I am not commenting that they do not deserve some money, that we just need to make sure we are equitable. My final comment has to do with the Open Space Fund. I live in District E. My comments are about equity and equitable distribution of public funds. The Lands Trust deserves our support as much as possible for all their great programs. So either pull this from the, if you're planning to put it on consent, pull it off of consent, and please consider the following. I offered a compromise in order to thank the Land Trust for their years of service, but to meet the responsibility of the fund itself, equitable distribution of public funds to areas throughout our diverse city. Funds are needed in the urban core in order to create vest pocket parks in public spaces, especially in District A and B. We have plenty of green space and trees in District E right now. A and B district do not. Mr. Stowers is still conducting the master plan. There surely can be a need for developing additional small parks on public-owned property. I know of 2 or 3 such locations, and I have mentioned them before. I ask that you reconsider just reducing the amount of money agreed upon. The Conservation Commission did not do their due diligence. They were misinformed, in my opinion, by the staff, and this is not the first time. The staff is supposed to give them a review of all public and private open space parcels and those threatened, according to the ordinance, the policies on the POCD, and your pledges when you were elected that public funds are distributed equitably throughout the city. I visited the site and I just do not find that spending almost $250,000 of the only $475,000 that is in the fund right now is a highest and best use of this fund. Half of
3
it.
minutes and 20 seconds.
I will wrap up. Thank you. The best use, in addition, I also urge that there be a review, an investigation about how this fund has been managed over time, undertaken immediately. It would include training to the commissioners and the staff, because I just am not sure that they are properly handling this fund. And I do ask that the district council people from A and B especially speak up to the need for equitable distribution. Again, I thank the Land Trust. I am sure Ms. Shanahan will recuse herself soon when this is taken up, this item. This is something that we really, really need to get
4
right.
minutes.
And I thank you for your time and all the work you do. The bar has been set too low in this case. The only question this commission said was, has anyone else asked for the money? That is too low a bar, and they are supposed to look at the entire holistic approach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
I believe this young lady might wish to speak.
Hi, Mayor Rilling and Common Council. My name is Emily Berneman. I'm Vice Chair of the Bike Walk Commission and a board member of Keep Norwalk Beautiful. I'd just like to quickly echo what Tanner was saying earlier about tonight's agenda item about Nicholas Pappas as a nomination for the Bike Walk Commission. I've been working with Nick since last year. He got involved with us through one of our efforts in the bike parking poetry contest. He was the first one to complete the challenge, and he's been integral in our efforts as a commission to connecting with the community. He's been volunteering his time. I'm very, very thankful that he's volunteering his time and effort to our group, and I really hope you give him consideration tonight to be nominated to our commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't see anybody else in the council chambers.
No one else online.
I see nobody online with their hand raised. So I will close public session. Next item on the agenda, resignations and appointments. We have two resignations. Mr. Sam Ebert from the Bike Walk Commission transferred jobs to Germany. So obviously he will not be able to serve. And Melody D'Alessandro, Commission on the Status of Women, international travel for business. So everybody's leaving the country here. Under appointments, we have Mr. Nicholas Pappas for the Bike Walk Commission. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an honor and privilege to bring forward Nicholas Pappas to the Bike Walk Commission. I had the opportunity to meet Nick and have a very enlightening discussion about his interests and his thinking and his passion as it relates to the Bike Walk Commission and the work that they're doing. Nick has a degree from one of the top engineering schools, Rensselaer Polytech Institute, RPI, in mechanical engineering. So he knows how things work. And he was able to clearly communicate that to me. In his most upcoming employment will be in Wilton, and he plans to actually bike from Norwalk to Wilton. So I'm looking forward to him not only supporting the Bike Walk Commission, but also displaying it through his actions in his mode of travel. So I'm very happy to bring Nick's name forward. He will be an asset to the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Any further comment? Mr. Goldstein.
I just want to echo what my colleague, Council President Burnett said. I have met Nick on a number of occasions. He is extremely smart. He is dedicated. As Greg said, I think, staffed every single table when the Bike Walk Commission did their recent programming to encourage more commuters and residents to bike walk, where they literally went across the city for a full week. And Nick was there. And by the way, it wasn't during the middle of the day. It was at 6 a.m. So you want people like that to be in positions of service, and Nick is going to provide a valuable service. I also think, and this is something that, for obvious reasons, I've advocated for a long time, to have more younger people involved in position boards and commissions throughout the city. And Nick is going to provide a valuable contribution to the Bike Walk Commission. I love spending time with my friends on the Bike Walk Commission, and obviously learn a lot from them too. Nick is going to be a welcome addition to the Bike Walk Commission, and I wholeheartedly support this nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Any further comment? Seeing none, all in favor of Mr. Nick Pappas for the Bike Walk Commission? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. I believe Mr. Pappas is probably here. No? Okay. I thought you were the only guy that could be Mr. Pappas. I know most of the others. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Pappas, for your willingness to serve. Sometimes it's very challenging to find people who would be willing to give up their time especially for the, considering all the money they get paid. So now next item is under Mayor's remarks. This past weekend, most of you probably realized that Norwalk hosted another Pride event over at Veterans Park. I want to thank the organizers of Pride who made this happen. It was well attended. We're very proud that Norwalk is an inclusive community. Everybody welcome. We want to make everybody feel important. We want to respect everybody. And of note, last year, the city of Norwalk received a 100% score on a municipal equality index scoreboard from the Human Rights Campaign Foundation, where cities are rated based on non-discrimination laws, the municipality as an employer, municipal services law, and for law enforcement, and leadership on LGBTQ plus equality. So we feel that Norwalk's on the right track, and I want to thank everybody who participated. I know a lot of the council people were there, a lot of our state representatives, and even our federal delegation came to show their support. Saturday this coming is Kids to Parks Day. As you may recall, in May, we had to postpone it because of the weather. This free family friendly event will include a variety of activities for all kids of all ages, including an obstacle course with Grit Ninja, music, lawn games, and a scavenger hunt. It's an opportunity to get young people away from the electronics, out into the fresh air, especially enjoying some of our wonderful resources like the beaches and the parks that we have. And so encourage everybody to get out with their family and have a great family day. Next, Monday, June 19th is recognized as a federal holiday. Connecticut is only one of 4 states that also recognizes it as a state holiday, and Norwalk has declared it a city holiday. So City Hall will be closed. As you know, Juneteenth in 1865, the last people who were enslaved were finally informed of the Act of 1863, freeing them, the Emancipation Proclamation. So we're very proud of that, and there'll be a celebration, I believe, at the Green this weekend from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. A lot of informational things and a lot of activities, so come on down. June is National Immigrant Heritage Month. Norwalk is home to so many diverse communities and generations of immigrants from all over the world, those whose contributions have really helped shape our city. It's interesting, I went to an event where a young lady was in the process of perhaps being sent back home. And there was probably 500 people in the crowd, and I asked everybody if either their parents or their grandparents came from another country, please raise their hand. Every single person's hand in that room went up. So I think it just shows the nation that we are, the melting pot that we are of the world. So we're very pleased again with our inclusivity. As you also know, the Planning and Zoning Commission is holding hybrid public hearings on June 21st and the 28th. We're updating our zoning regulations, which has not been done in over 30 years. They're very convoluted, very non-navigable. So we wanted to make them more consistent, easier to navigate. They'll hold 5 hybrid public meetings. They'll be in person and hybrid, City Hall and on Zoom, and you can get specific details on our website. I think most people may have read my comments that I think we need to slow down a bit. I don't want to move too quickly, too far too quickly, and think about what we're doing, because once you do something, it's virtually impossible to undo it. So we can always do something that we push off. So that's kind of what my hopes are. Finally, last but not least, I can assure the speakers tonight that ongoing dialogues regarding the parking at the library are taking place. Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The consent calendar for tonight will be read by Councilmember Barbara Smith.
Item A1 under Economic and Community Development Committee, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, and amendments thereto as may be necessary for the city to receive grant funds from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and its National Coastal Resilience Fund Grant Program in the amount of $211,750. Item 2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, and amendments thereto as may be necessary for the city of Norwalk to receive grant funds from the state of Connecticut, acting by the Connecticut Port Authority through the Small Harbor Improvement Projects Program, SHIP, in the amount of $44,000. Item A4, approve the 2023 applications for referral to the Connecticut Department of Revenue Services for inclusion in the 2023 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act Tax Credit Program. few pages here. Under item 7C, Community Services. Number 1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept preventive health strategies at work in Connecticut Communities Block Grant Funds from the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health for the period October 1, 2023 through September 30th, 2028. And also under Community Services, item 2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments as may be necessary to implement preventive health strategies at work in Connecticut Communities Block Grant Funds from the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health for the period October 1, 2023 through September 30th, 2028. 7D1, under Public Safety and General Government, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents and agreements necessary to apply for and accept grant funding under the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation fiscal year 2023 Speed and Aggressive Driving Enforcement Grant. And item 2, under Public Safety and General Government, authorize the police chief, James Walsh, to execute any and all documents and agreements as may be necessary to implement the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation 2023 Speed and Aggressive Driving Enforcement Grant. Under Land Use and Building Management, E6, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to William B. Meyer, Inc. for moving services at Cranberry School in accordance with State Contract 14 PSX 0161 for an amount not to exceed $39,967.75. Funds are available and account number noted. And 6B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on this purchase order for a total not to exceed $10,000, account number noted. I missed 3A and 3B. Can I go back and read?
I'm sorry?
3A and 3B are also on consent. I missed
3A and B.
Yeah, so I'll go back and read that. 3A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order on Omni Data LLC for security camera enhancements at West Rocks, Nathan Hale, Ponus, Roten, and Tracy schools for a total not to exceed $100,540.70, account number noted. And 3B, authorized to establish a contingency for additional services as may be required for a total not to exceed $9,393, account number noted. And then moving on to 7F under Finance and Claims. Item 1, Claims Committee, June 2023. Item 2, Narrative on Tax Collections dated June 2023. Receive, report, and discuss. And item 3, Monthly Tax Collectors Report dated May 2023. Receive, report, and discuss. And that is the consent itself.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. You've heard the reading of the consent calendar. Call for the question. All those in favor, provide either verbal raise of your hand or online. All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? The consent calendar as read is approved. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. First item off the consent calendar is item 6A1 under Corporation Council. Mr. Capola.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, okay. Mr.
Uh,
Burnett.
Yes, thank you. Under Corporate Council, item 1 reads as follows. Vote to exercise option to purchase real property at 11 Belden Avenue, Norwalk, Connecticut, pursuant to a previously executed option agreement with an effective date of August 31st, 2017 by and between the City of Norwalk, the Norwalk Public Library Board, and 587 CT Avenue LLC. Like to move this item.
The item has been moved by Mr. Burnett. Mr. Burnett, you wish to comment?
We have with us our corporate counsel, Mary Capola, who will explain further details related to this item. And so I'll hand it to Mario at this time.
Thank you. So the subject option agreement provided that the city received a 6-year option to purchase the property at 11 Belden Avenue for $4,885,000. The effective date of that agreement was August 31st, 2017. Pursuant to the agreement, if the city decided to exercise the option, it is required to provide written notice to the property owner by no later than June 30th of its intent to exercise the option. So while the agreement remains in place through the end of August, and the parking that is currently located behind the library that is being leased pursuant to the option agreement, that also remains in place through the end of August. So what is before you this evening is a vote to exercise the option to purchase real property at 11 Belden Avenue pursuant to a previously executed option agreement with an effective date of August 31st, 2017, by and between the City of Norwalk, the Norwalk Public Library Board, and 587 Connecticut Avenue LLC. So if you are to vote no, then you would, I'm sorry, if you were to vote yes, then you would be voting to exercise the option, in which case the city would have to then proceed with providing written notice to the owner in the next few weeks of its intent to exercise the option. And the city would have to purchase the property for $4,885,000 prior on or before August 31st, 2023. If you vote no this evening, then you are voting not to exercise that option. So that is what is before you this evening.
So we will need a motion from somebody on the council to.
Before we move to a vote, we also have Mayor on the call with us to provide additional commentary, the Chief of Economic and Community Development, Jessica Vonacek, who will add additional commentary as to the parking situation at the library.
Ms. Vonacek.
You're on mute.
Now?
Yep, we have you.
Okay, great. So in 2018, the library board completed a strategic plan and a building plan. And those two plans showed a possible expansion and also a renovation of the existing library as it stands today. As it stands, the library is 47,000 square feet. The original library was built many years ago, the Carnegie piece, and then in the 1980s, there was an expansion that took place on the back of that. And so that's the current library that we have at Belden. The building plan actually showed a possible expansion and the renovation. And what it looked to do was modernize the library to be able to meet the current day needs and also future needs of the patrons and residents of the city of Norwalk. Since then, we've been working with the First Taxing District to be able to acquire 3 Belden, which is the building where the redevelopment agency was housed. And when they moved to 50 Washington, we opened up the Business Development Center. More recently, we've been able to negotiate a price for 3 Belden, and we're currently going through the public process to be able to purchase that. We did go to land use and received approval there. We did go through finance to be able to create an account using ARPA dollars for $1.42 million. And our next step is to go to Planning and Zoning Commission for the 8-24, and that's scheduled for June the 21st. And then come to you, the Common Council, for a vote to be able to approve that acquisition. And that will be the last week of June. Since we've been able to talk with the First Taxing District to be able to purchase Belden, the library board has committed to going back to the drawing board and being able to look at the renovation and look at if the library does need an expansion, and basically refresh the building plan and refresh the strategic plan to be able to understand how, with an expanded footprint, including 1 Belden and 3 Belden, the library may potentially sit. Since then, we've also, and more recently, we've also been able to lease parking spaces on the Eagles property. There are 30 parking spaces there, which actually is a full 1-to-1 replacement of what we've been leasing on 11 Belden, or what the option is included on 11 Belden. We understand that the parking is a little bit farther away, but we too plan to do some streetscape work to be able to make sure that people understand that the parking is meant for the library. And in addition to that, we also, as I said, will be acquiring, with your approval, 3 Belden. Now, that will allow us for additional parking in the short term and in the midterm. And I believe that when the building plan happens, the updated building plan happens with the library board, that we will have a better sense of what parking is needed for the library and be able to tease out that plan, knowing that the footprint of the parcel is a lot larger than what we have to work with today.
Thank you, Ms. Vanashek. Before we move on with the vote, are there any questions or comments? So yes, Ms. Josie Eichner.
Thank you, Mayor Rilling. I wanted to express my appreciation to the Corporation Counsel's Office and to Ms. Vanacek. I know this has been a complex process, and I really appreciate the time and thought that has been put into it. I appreciate the creativity in securing the Eagles parking and thinking about how we can best leverage that. And I'm very grateful to the First Taxing District for their negotiations. I'm very excited about the potential for 3 Belden and the potential to do this in a way that is both meets the needs of our citizens and is fiscally responsible and leverages the best use of the city's resources. So I'm very grateful for everyone's work on this.
Thank you. So, Ms. Smith.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. Jessica, how many spots are at 3 Belden for public use once the purchase would go through?
Yep, so it's just over 30 parking spots are there as well.
Okay, and assuming everything goes as planned, how quickly, or maybe more specifically, would those spots be available for our residents to use by August 31st? Is that possible?
Yeah, so my understanding is that as I mentioned, the Common Council will be voting to acquire 3 Belden at the end of this month. And so we are looking to expedite the closing so that we have the ability to secure that parking. One of the questions that has come up is how will you balance the need for parking for the Business Development Center and also the library? And there are a number of spots in that 3 Belden piece, and we often see a number of walk-ins to the Business Development Center, but they are actual physical walk-ins. In addition, some of the folks are parking, but they're using the parking spaces that are really closest to the street, closest to Belden Street. We do have once or twice a month larger groups at the Business Development Center, but they usually span between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. They're technical assistance trainings for small businesses that are looking to grow or entrepreneurs that are looking to seek funding. So there will be an influx of need for parking for the Business Development Center, but that's not consistent 5 days a week for when the Business Development Center is open. And the other thing that I can't help but be happy about is that when we talk to the library board, and they've been so great, and the First Taxing District has been so great as well to work with, but one of the things that we've been talking about is if the potential expansion of the library could incorporate the Business Development Center into the actual facility itself. And they've spoken really optimistically and positively about that opportunity.
Thank you.
So seeing no further hands, there's only 3 possibilities. I need a motion of yes in order to exercise the option. Okay, Mr. Meek, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just one quick question. Do we keep foot count data on the Business Development Center? And if we do, can we have a copy of that?
Yes, and I believe since we were collecting it, and I believe you asked for it before, and we've been preparing a report for you. So I will check with our Director of Business Development and Tourism to be able to get that to you.
Thanks for reminding me.
Thanks for reminding me.
Are there any further questions?
The roll call vote?
Well, first of all, we have to make a motion. The item is before us. A yes vote, we need a motion for a yes vote in order to exercise the option. A no vote in order not to exercise the option, or a vote to table, which is not debatable. Do we have any motions?
In light of what we've been discussing tonight and the ongoing discussions that we've had or that have been had, I make a motion that we vote no and do not approve accept the option or take the option.
Mr.
Second.
Mr. Camacho has made a motion to vote no. Any discussion?
I just want to make sure that it's clear then that, previously, when I was, just giving a brief introduction about the agreement, I just assumed the motion would be made, as a vote to approve, but, or to vote to exercise, but certainly you could, couch the motion as a motion to not exercise the option. So therefore, based on your phrasing of the motion, just to be clear.
Oh, I see what you mean. So vote to exercise yes or no. Is that what you're saying? That would
Yeah,
be-
so I think it may be, you may want to consider just rescinding that motion and just making a motion to exercise the option to purchase the property. And so a yes would be a vote to exercise the option, and a no would be a vote not to exercise the option. That may be less
I'll
confusing.
adopt that.
Voted no.
Phrasing.
So-
Yeah, so it's a vote to exercise the option, yes or no.
Yes,
So that's the
That's correct.
question.
as you said, a no vote is to not exercise the option. A yes vote would be to exercise the option.
Yes.
The table would be non-debatable.
So I adopt,
So if in adopting my proposed language, it would be a vote to exercise the option to purchase real property at 11 Belden Avenue, Norwalk, Connecticut, pursuant to a previously executed option agreement with an effective date of August 31st, 2017, by and between the city of Norwalk, Norwalk Public Library Board, and 587 Connecticut Avenue LLC.
Would you read that again? Because I'm having trouble understanding what you're saying. It sounded like you said a vote to exercise the option.
that's the question that's the question. It's
Yes.
either yes or no.
Yes, that's right.
So
you said no.
No, my motion was to say no, but the actual question is whether or not to exercise the option.
Right.
And that's, I think, what,
So what I was just pointing out is that a yes would be to exercise the option, and a no would be to not exercise.
Oh, my goodness.
The way that,
It's exactly what I just said.
the way Councilman Camacho had
Could
phrased,
you make it any more confusing?
I just,
So, Mr. Camacho,
yes,
you voted no, so you are saying you do not want the council to exercise the option.
true, but that's not the question on the table. The question on the table is,
No, he didn't vote no. He made a motion to say no.
yes, that was my motion. That's going to be my vote, but actually the motion is as a corporation council has stated, and I'll adopt that language.
would you-
Simple yes or no. You're voting, your motion is to vote no to exercise, not to exercise the option.
No, my motion is my vote will be no, but the motion is
Rescinding your.
as,
You're sending the motion. We are.
as,
You're making this far more difficult than it needs to be. It's a vote whether or not to exercise the option. You're saying we don't want, you're voting not to exercise the option.
that would be my vote. yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? And I think Mr. Keity's called for a roll call vote. Is that correct?
Correct.
But I just want to make sure that the question is correctly on the table. And I believe that Mr. Coppola has read into the record what I have adopted, so I'm going to rescind my motion and adopting
Shakespeare was right.
Mr. Coppola's motion or his language, and then we'll vote on that. And that's either going to be a yes or no vote on the part of each of the members of the common council.
So let's take a step back. Let's get the language straight.
Right.
So we're all comfortable with it. And then we will call a roll call vote. So Mr. Camacho, will you make the motion that you wish to make? Which you've already done, but do it
Reading
again.
into red because that's the motion that I've adopted.
okay, so
That makes any
for
sense.
Councilman Camacho's request, I'll just repeat that language, which he'll adopt as the motion. Vote to exercise option, vote to exercise option to purchase real property at 11 Belden Avenue, Norwalk, Connecticut, pursuant to a previously executed option agreement with an effective date of August 31st, 2017, by and between the city of Norwalk, Norwalk Public Library Board, and 587 Connecticut Avenue LLC.
Okay, so if you'll help us, will you tell Mr. Camacho the exact language he needs to say if he wishes to vote?
I've just
down?
adopted that language.
No,
Mr.
the
Mayor.
vote whether or not. Now you're saying, you can't
So now-
the vote.
so now we go to a vote.
It's ready to-
So moved.
Let's do a roll call vote.
So moved.
Yes.
So moved. So just to clarify, a vote, a yes vote is to exercise the option, a no vote is to not exercise.
And he said no before. Did you not?
That was my motion, but I've adopted Mario Coppola's motion, which is the the motion that's on the table, at least.
So this language here, you're saying no to exercising the option.
That would be my vote.
Wow. Okay, so Mr. Camacho has made a motion to vote no, not to exercise the option on 11 Belden Avenue. Am I correct?
No, Mr. Mayor. No, Mr. Mayor.
Not to exercise the option.
Mr. Camacho, are you rescinding the motion?
I've rescinded that motion.
He's rescinded that motion. So that motion that Mr. Camacho made is not on the table. He's rescinded that. What
Here,
Mr.
let me read it to.
So I asked Mr. Camacho what language we need to have in order to vote his vote.
So I will read into the record the language of the motion.
This is embarrassing.
The motion I'm gonna make, that's gonna be on the table.
It's embarrassing.
It's a vote to exercise the option to purchase real property at 11 Belden Avenue, Norwalk, Connecticut pursuant to a previously executed option agreement with an effective date of August 31, 2017, by and between the city of Norwalk. I can't reach your hand.
The Norwalk Library Board.
And 587 Connecticut Avenue LLC. So that's the motion on.
So did you read what he read this exactly, right?
Yes.
You read this exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so now we need a motion on your language.
So moved.
Okay. What, to what?
What he just read.
What he just read. You can't say vote on whether or not to exercise the option.
That's
That's what he just read.
Not what he read. So Mr. Camacho made a motion to vote to approve the option. So a yes vote would be to approve it and a no vote would be not to
And no vote
exercise
was
the option.
before.
So if there's a majority of no votes, you're not exercising the option. If there's a majority of yes votes, then you are taking a vote to exercise the option. Is that clear to everybody?
Yes.
Yes. All right, we're gonna go a roll call vote. Yes or no would be the answer. Ms. Dixon.
Mr. Burnett,
No.
This is unbelievable.
Mr. Camacho,
No.
Mr. Goldstein,
No.
Ms. Najilski Eichner,
No.
Ms. Smith,
No.
Mr. Uvelman,
No.
Ms. Young,
No.
Mr. Kites,
Yes.
Ms. Alterman,
No.
Mr. Meek,
Yes.
Ms. Shanahan.
No.
So we have 2 yeses and 9 no's.
Three?
Two. We have-
2 yeses.
I'm here.
Oh,
Oh, Ms. Revelous.
oh,
No.
no, all right, so we have 10 yeas and 10 yes and 2 no. So. Okay, the motion is that we do not exercise, or I'm sorry, the vote is, we do not exercise the option to purchase real property at 11 Belden Avenue, and we allow the option to expire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for the confusion. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Kites, item 7A3.
Thank you. Item 73, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute all documents to renew the contract for marketing services between the city of Norwalk and Dorenberg Callenbach Advertising LLC for $150,000. I'd like to move that item and briefly say this is the last year of a 5-year contract. We've had from feedback from all involved that high quality of tourism, website development, and a variety of other tactics to promote our great city. And look forward to this getting approved tonight and exercising this last year of Mr. Callenbach's contract.
Mr. Kites has moved the item. Discussion? Mr. Meek.
Yeah, I'm not going to belabor all my no votes that are forthcoming. I just want to remind everyone that we are still not highly functional in our online meeting access, public participation. It's ironic, this is a marketing effort. It would be nice if marketing could expand itself to inform residents more about meetings and how to participate. And furthermore, you know, we still keep having technical glitches with a lot of these meetings outside of council business, a lot of other meetings. And these things, while I support hybrid, it needs to be working lights out. And here we are, we're spending over $8 million tonight. And I just feel helpless from all the constituents calling me and pounding me about the fact that we just don't have functioning government the way we had it when everything was in person. So again, you know, we can have hybrid, but it's got to be lights out. It's got to work. The exceptions to meeting continuity and vitality need to be held in paramount to anything else. And the fact we're not doing that or making an effort while spending all this other money on other stuff is not in line with what our voters want. Thanks. So I'll be voting no on this and everything else that you read into the record tonight. And I won't belabor it for another minute. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Meek. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Ms. Revelous? Ms. Alterman?
I'm opposed.
You're opposed? Okay, so Ms. Alterman and Mr. Meek are opposed. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, item 7B.
I think there's another item on economic and community
Sorry?
development. 5 for community development. Number 5.
I don't have a 5.
It was in the revised agenda.
Okay, I have the old agenda then. All right. Items, Mr. Kite, item 7A5.
Authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute a contract with Carmita Inc. in the amount not to exceed $31,490 to complete a greenhouse gas inventory and modeling. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Account number noted. And I'd like to move that item and quickly speak to it to say this. This is to expand the climate action plan to do a study of Norwalk greenhouses, gas emissions, so they can give us the information we need once we move forward with the city action plan.
Hey, Mr. Kite has moved item 7A5. Any further discussion? All in favor? Ms. Revelous?
I'm in favor, sorry.
Okay, Ms. Revelous, you're voting yes or no?
Oh, you didn't hear me? I'm sorry.
Mr. Meek? Down. Ms. Alterman?
In favor.
Okay, so 1 opposed and the rest in favor. For some reason, I didn't have that on my agenda. Item 7B, Ms. Smith, now.
Thank you. 1A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Grasso Companies LLC for project PM 2023-4 paving at various locations for some not to exceed $609,415.20, with the option to extend this agreement for one additional term of 1 year. Account number noted. And 1B, authorize the Chief of Operations and Public Works to execute orders on contract with the Grasso Companies LLC for project PM 2023-4 paving at various locations for some not to exceed $60,941.52. Account number noted. This is the lowest bidder using some state funds.
So you're moving 1A and 1B together?
Mhm.
Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Revelous, yes. Mr. Meek, no. One opposed and the rest in favor. Item 7B2.
Yes, I'd like to move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute the First Amendment to the March 14th, 2023 agreement between the City of Norwalk and Burns Construction Company, Inc. for Project PM 2023-1 Pavement Management Program for amount not to exceed $2 million. Account numbers noted. This is extra funding that's available to extend the original scope of work.
The item was moved. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One opposed, Mr. Meek. Ms. Smith?
Item 3, I'd like to move to authorize the purchasing agent to issue a sole source purchase order to FLT Geosystems to upgrade the survey equipment for an amount not to exceed $28,952. Account number noted.
Item has been moved. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed. Item 4A and 4B.
Yes, I'll move those two together. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Rocco Ayadoloro General Contracting Company for project TMP 2023-1 decorative crosswalks and traffic calming surfaces at various intersections for an amount not to exceed $150,000. Account numbers noted. And 4B, authorize the Director of Transportation, Mobility and Parking to execute orders on contract with Rocco Ayadoloro General Contracting Company for project TMP 2023-1 decorative crosswalks and traffic calming surfaces at various intersections for an amount not to exceed $15,000. These are TMP items for various locations around with high visibility crosswalks. They are very safe for pedestrians, slow traffic, low maintenance, and less expensive.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith moved the item. Further discussion?
It's 150,000.
I'm sorry?
It's 150,000, not 15,000.
No, she's reading 4B at the end.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you moved those together.
Okay, the items 4A and 4B have been moved together. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Alterman?
I'm opposed.
I'm sorry, you're opposed?
Correct.
Okay, and Mr. Meek is opposed. That's, the item passes. Item 5.
Yes, I'd like to move to authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Emery Winslow Scale Company for the sole source purchase of a 70-foot truck scale for a sum not to exceed $143,655. Account number noted. We're replacing the old scale, which is very much needed to accommodate for longer trailers.
Okay, Ms. Smith has moved item 5. All in favor? Or I'm sorry, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Camacho?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kites, I didn't see your hand. Okay.
Aye.
Ms. Alterman?
Aye, I had my hand up, sorry.
I said, Mr. Meek. Okay, Mr. Meek voted no. Item 6A and 6B.
Yes, I will move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute the First Amendment to the February 28th, 2023 agreement between the City of Norwalk and Burns Construction Company, Inc. for project PM 2023-2 permanent roadway repairs and surface restoration for an amount not to exceed $150,000. Account number noted. And 6B, authorize the Chief of Operations and Public Works to execute orders on contract to the February 28th, 2023 agreement between the City of Norwalk and Burns Construction Company, Inc. for project PM 2023-2 permanent roadway repairs and surface restoration for amount not to exceed $15,000. Account number noted. This is our patch contract that is in effect after work is done and the patch settles for about 6 months. Then we go back and repay.
That has been moved by Ms. Smith. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed. Ms. Alterman, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Aye.
Mr. Meek opposes. 7A and 7B.
Yes, I'll move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with FGB Construction Company for project DRG 2023-1 Chatham Drive and Cosset Rain Storm Drainage Improvements for a sum not to exceed $864,300. Account numbers noted, and 7B, authorize the Chief of Operations and Public Works to execute orders on the contract with FGB Construction Company for project DRG 2023-1 Chatham Drive and Cosset Road Storm Drainage Improvements for some not to exceed $86,430, 10% of bid amount. Account numbers noted. This is to address some flooding that is very problematic.
Ms. Smith moved items 7A and 7B. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed. Item 8A, 8B.
Okay, move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement between the city of Norwalk and New Gen Strategies and Solutions LLC for municipal solid waste consulting services, project number 4277 for a sum not to exceed $146,770, account number noted. And 8B, authorize the Chief of Operations and Public Works to execute orders on the contract with New Gen Strategies and Solutions LLC for municipal solid waste consulting services, project 4277 for some not to exceed $14,677, account number noted. This will, New Gen will complete a waste characterization for us, and they will provide us with a holistic look at our process of solid waste and recycling and what improvements that we can make. It's very important for our city.
The item has been moved. Items 8A and 8B. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed. Item carries. I believe that brings us to land use. Am I correct? Or is my agenda not right?
Yep, you got it. Okay.
Ms. Smith.
Yep. Okay, item 1, I would like to move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an amendment to the financial assistance agreement with Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum at Norwalk, Inc. for the infrastructure improvement project at the museum to increase the city's capital grant funds by an additional $1,250,000 for a revised total of $6,750,000, account number noted. This has already been approved as is stated in the capital budget. This has been a very long-term project, important work for the mansion.
And Ms. Smith has moved the item. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed and Ms. Alterman abstains. Item 2A and 2B, Ms. Smith.
Yes, I move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Retech LLC for Belden Avenue Library Literacy Volunteers Office Improvements for a total not to exceed $89,000, account number noted. And 2B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue change orders on the contract for a total not to exceed $8,900 funds available from account numbers noted. This is an ELL program that has been online since COVID. Ms. Harris would like to do some renovations so that she can bring the kids back into the library. And it just involves renovating an office space.
Smith has moved the item. Any further discussion? Mr. Kides, are you have your hand for discussion?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm just gonna keep my hand up in approval of the following items that are off consent.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Alterman? Yeah, okay, all opposed?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Alterman, was that an aye?
Aye.
Item carries. Mr. Meek opposed. Item 4A, I'm sorry, 4.
I'm sorry, John's cracking me up. Item 4. Oh, no, yes. Ms. I believe Ms. Shanahan.
I'm going to recuse myself for this purpose.
Oh, okay. Please let the record show that Ms. Shanahan
has left the chambers to recuse herself from items 7E4.
Okay, I would like to move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, and amendments thereto as may be necessary to grant funds from the open space capital budget funds to the Norwalk Land Trust for acquisition of 12, 14, and 16 Stephen Mather Road in the amount of $200,000, account number noted. This has already been approved by the Conservation Commission. We know that Ms. Laricella has spoken about this. There are some questions around equity, and we have Alexis Caricetti here, our senior environmental person from City Hall, who is the staff for the Conservation Commission. So she is here to give us a little overview of this and to answer any questions around it.
Ms. Trichetti?
She was here.
So yes, the in the city code chapter 35, article 3 details the open space fund. It was established in the spring of 2000 with the express goal of providing the city a tool to better enable it to react to opportunities for the acquisition of open space. The fund has a lot of details in the code, including its permitted uses of the fund. There are 4 permitted uses. One is the acquisition of real property by the city. 2 is the payment of acquisition related costs, such as like a title search or a survey. 3 is the contribution of funds to a nonprofit such as Land Trust for their acquisition of open space funds. And then 4 is to cover costs needed to transform properties that are not considered open space into open space properties. So those are the limited uses of the fund. As noted at the Conservation Commission's May 9th meeting, they received a letter of request from the Land Trust for $200,000 of the open space fund to go towards their acquisition of 3 parcels totaling about 6.73 acres of land off of Stephen Mather Road. The Conservation Commission did duly consider that request and voted to support that request. The fund balance is currently $461,686. That does not include an additional $50,000, which would be added to it with the July 1st in the capital funds. The property on Stephen Mather is 3 individual properties. They're 3 building lots that could be developed into single-family residences. The lots do have water courses and some amount of wetlands on them. They're mostly deciduous woodlands. The 3 properties are all contiguous to one another, so it is a block of nearly 7 acres. One thing that I would add is that the chapter 35 also spells out the procedures for use of the funds. And so far we're on track. Any use of the fund should be submitted to the Conservation Commission. The commission shall ascertain whether there's sufficient unobligated resources for the funds, if the funds are readily available, and if the proposal is consistent with the permitted uses. The Conservation Commission would then refer the proposal to the Land Use Committee of the Common Council, which it did, for review and comment. Then technically, prior to coming to the Common Council, it should actually go to the Planning and Zoning Commission for Section 824 review, and that hasn't been done yet. So that would occur at the Planning and Zoning's next meeting, if that is required.
So, Mr. Capola, do we vote on this tonight since it hasn't
So
had an 824 review?
You could still vote on it. It just, it requires a higher threshold if it hasn't had it requires a higher threshold for approval if you
Right.
haven't yet done the 8-30, the 830G. Not 830G, I'm sorry. it's filing. The 824 review. I generally recommend that you try to allow the 824 review to happen prior to voting. But you're not,
Alan Lowe is on and
you're not obligated.
he's
to
got
do
his
so.
hand raised.
Mr. Lowe?
Good evening. I just want to input on something here. This request is not actually acquisition of property. It's actually a grant to the Norwalk Land Trust. So the city is actually not going and acquiring the property itself. So I don't believe we have to go through P&C because we're not doing acquisition. We're not going to own the property. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Capola?
Well, I think if there's a dispute regarding whether it has to obtain an 824 review, I mean, my advice is generally to take the conservative approach and where Mr. Ketty thinks it should, I would recommend that you proceed with getting that review. Again, you could vote this evening. It just requires a higher threshold of approval.
Would it not be safer to table the motion for now?
That would be my recommendation.
From a time, if you have the time to do so, I would recommend doing that. If 824 is required, or I'm sorry, if it has to go for an 824 review, even though you could vote if that hasn't been conducted with a higher threshold approval, I still recommend proceeding with going to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah, I would recommend tabling it based on that, but I think that since we have Ms. Caracetti here, we also have Richard Baskin from the Land Trust, and I believe there's some questions. Maybe we could take care of those right now. Do you have some questions? I know that you have some questions. Yeah,
I do.
So I'd like to give you the opportunity to ask them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they're not.
We'll table it. We're gonna table it, but
They're going to
we
table.
think
She just want to
Laura
ask the
can ask
questions while they have
yeah.
folks here.
Is that fine, or should we wait and do the questions after if we come back to us after we've tabled it?
It's up to you. You can do it either way.
Okay, if you're by the list, I mean, since we have Alexis, and let's not bring people back unnecessarily. So Ms. Caracetti, I appreciate you coming tonight. I did have some follow-up questions based on some of the concerns Ms. Lauricella raised. I think are questions that are worth discussing. So what are our options? Let me back up and say, do we have a map or some kind of accounting of where our current open space is in the city?
So yes, we do have a map, and then I maintain a very large spreadsheet that has open space properties that are both protected and then unprotected open space. So protected open space would be city-owned land that has some restriction on it as far as development rights. It also includes protected properties, also includes parcels held by the land trust, easements held by either the city or the land trust that remove building rights, state or federal land that has any restrictions as well. And then it also includes unprotected or unpreserved lands that the Conservation Commission has identified over time as having some open space attributes or values that would be potentially valuable as open space land. So yes, we do have a list. What we don't have is the resources to actively go out and talk to the private homeowner, or not homeowners, property owners that have this land, to try to negotiate a deal to purchase the land. And that's where your local land trust steps in. They have a focused mission of looking for and protecting property, particularly for natural resources throughout the city. So to answer your question, yes, we have a list, but no I would say that we're not actively using that list to try to negotiate additional acquisition on behalf of the city at this point.
So we primarily rely on the land trust to identify properties and negotiate for them.
Yes, I mean, so historically, the fund was established in 2000. Prior to that, often we would have these open tracts of land that would then have a development application associated with it. There would be a lot of reactionary reaction to the pending development, and the city would scramble to secure either grant funds or do a large capital expenditure to secure those funds. In 2000, the idea was to establish a fund so that we have at least a base fund to use as match funds for if we were to find the opportunity to acquire open space. But yes.
So, and I think to some of the equity concerns that have been raised, have we acquired properties in the last since 2000 in districts A or B or the more urban part of District C?
We have used the open space fund for acquisition of the Crossland property. That is, I don't know I do wetlands and water courses, so I don't know the district boundaries, forgive me. So that's off of Blake Street. I believe that the answer is going to be no, but I'll go through the properties that have been funded. So the Crossland property, which is off of Blake Street, kind of in the middle of the city. The Hart property, which is in rural Ayden, which was 2011, 2018, the White Barn property, which was in the Cranberry area. And I believe that is it for the open space fund. We've had other requests. We had 2 requests in 2021, one from the Rec and Parks director at the time, looking to do some improvements at Calf Pasture Beach, and that was determined to not be in line with the fund. And then one from the Norwalk Land Trust to do remediation at Hoyt Island, and that was in the end denied by the commission. So no, there has not been through the open space fund, urban core acquisitions. Part of that is that one of the focuses of the fund is to protect natural resources. Obviously, the protection of open space has a multitude of different positive attributes. Certain open spaces can provide natural resource protection, water quality protection, and kind of community feel and character. Those properties with just community feel and character have just not been identified for protection. Again, we have them on a list, but we don't have the resources to actively try to negotiate acquisition deals.
Okay, so what kind of resources would you need to be able to pursue open space for our areas that are most densely populated and most in need of this open space?
So I'd say two stepwise things. One would be the completion of an open space plan. The city does not have a proactive open space planning document that lays out a prioritization based on city goals for the acquisition of open space. And then secondly would just be either focused staff or a focused volunteer group that would focus on whatever that planning exercise prioritized.
And can or is the open space plan that you discussed part of the master parks plan that is currently in the works? or can it be part of it?
Yeah, so
I can answer that one, Alexis. It's Vanessa Valadares, Chief of Operations and Public Works. So during the master plan that we are about to finalize, one thing that they identify is that there are some areas that are not close for walking or biking in the urban core. So we believe that after that plan is finalized, we're going to be able to look into it and see where will be the right options that we can implement new parks as part of it. But as of now, we haven't identified those locations, and probably the costs and the financial that will be associated to be able to acquire new areas to it.
Right. I mean, I'm imagining we would potentially be considering some fairly significant costs to be acquiring land in our urban core for this purpose, but it does seem like something that would be crucial to do. I mean, if there's something that everyone should equally have access to, it's some fresh air.
Yes, but at the same time, and we're going to do a presentation for the board within a few weeks with the master plan for the Recs and Parks master plan. We did it on Friday at the library. Thursday last week at the library. And you guys are going to have the opportunity to look at the master plan, the draft of it, and also have those questions answered. But you will be able also to see that there is a lot of improvements that will come also as part of the master plan before even acquire new open space. One of the priorities is try to enhance space that we already have and offer further activities and also enhancements to existing parks, so more people can be benefit of it.
Okay, I recognize that Mr. Baskin has been very patiently waiting. Thank you both very much for your comments.
Mr. Baskin?
Thank you. I'm Richard Baskin. I'm the treasurer of the Norwalk Land Trust. Couple of points I want to make. First is that quite often, in fact, with this property, we get approached by the property owner to who is looking for a generally it's a tax abatement for the land trust to evaluate whether the land would be appropriate for us to acquire as open space. This is the case that happened also with this property at Stephen Mather. So this is where these situations arise. Secondly, is that the land trust is very sensitive to the access and equity to all Norwalk residents. And as part of that, we dedicated a substantial amount of our budget to education programs. And we, for example, we had ultimately 800 fourth graders from I think 8 different elementary schools in Norwalk come out to our Farm Creek Preserve for a field trip and education on the coastal estuary education. Prior to the pandemic, we had every single fourth grade school send every single fourth grade kid to the to spend some time at the our properties. In addition, we try to make our properties, where appropriate, accessible to the community.
Ms. Smith, would you like to rescind your motion?
I just wanted to
Ms.
make one last comment. I just want to thank Councilmember Nora Majewski-Eckner for her comments, because I was going to say something, and to the comment made about inclusion and equity. And clearly there's more that can be done, particularly as South Norwalk is continuing to see development, right? And we keep talking about planting trees and green infrastructure, but we've got to protect and try to preserve and find some sort of open space in those, not just District B, but in A and C, where where it was noted already. But I think moving forward, we can probably look into that a lot more.
And I just want to thank the staff for being here, and I think that it was wise to use their time while they were here. So when it comes back to us, we'll do this more quickly. And so I believe we'll table this to.
Well, you have to rescind your motion first.
All right, so I would like
Or
to.
withdraw your motion.
Okay, I would like to, I don't need to read it again. I would like to withdraw my motion, item number 4 under land use and make a motion to table the item.
A motion to table is not debatable. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The motion is tabled. Item 7.
You get Lisa?
Oh, yes.
Oh, 5A and 5B, I'm sorry.
Yes, 5A and B, okay. I will move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Willing, to execute an agreement with Russell and Dawson to provide structural threshold peer review services for the Norwalk High School project for a total not to exceed
I just texted.
$32,200, account number noted. And 5B, there she is, authorize a contingency for additional services as may be required for a total not to exceed $5,000, account number noted. There is, we are required to do this by the state, a structural peer review. This was something put in place after the L'Ambiance disaster many years ago. So it's just as a part of what we have to do.
Okay, Smith has moved item 5A and 5B. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And I'm sorry, Mr. Meek voted no. Item 7, Ms. Smith.
Move to authorize to increase the contingency allowance for additional services for Antonazi Associates for Jefferson School Improvement Project for an additional amount of $18,000 as part of the project closeout, account number noted. 2 items there. There was an overrun due to some hazardous materials that were found, as well as using funds to build the school construction website that is very helpful to our residents.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Meek, abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item 8A, 8B.
Move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Willing, to execute an agreement with Retech LLC for the Brookside Elementary School Montessori first grade classroom upgrade project for a total not to exceed $51,000, account number noted. And 8B, authorize the NPS Facilities Department to issue change orders on this contract for a total not to exceed $5,100. Accounts are available in account number noted. This was something that the Board of Ed had requested to switch funds during the capital budget process to support this program.
Okay, Ms. Smith has moved item 8A and 8B. All in favor? I'm sorry, further discussion. I don't want to block any discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Meek opposed, abstentions? Motion carries except for 1. Item 10A, I'm sorry, item 9.
9, yes. Item 9, move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Willing, to execute an agreement with South Sabia Electrical Contractors, Inc. for the Nathan Hale Middle School HVAC project for a total not to exceed $992,460. Funds are available on account number noted. These are electrical upgrades and for air conditioning.
Okay, Ms. Smith has moved item 9. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Meek opposed, no abstentions?
Oh, I think that's Diana.
Somebody put their audio on?
She's okay.
Item 10A and 10B, Ms. Smith.
Move to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Willing, to execute an agreement with Consulting Engineering Services, Inc., CES, to provide conceptual HVAC design services and cost eliminating services necessary in compliance with state's indoor air quality improvement grant applications requirements for a total not to exceed $72,000, account number noted. And 10B, authorize a design contingency allowance for additional services as may be required for a total not to exceed $10,000, account number noted.
Ms. Smith has moved the item. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Meek and Ms. Alterman voted no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 11,
Move to authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to MJ Daily LLC to provide life safety services, fire alarm and sprinkler services and inspections for various city buildings for an initial term of 3 years and the amount of $40,908.20 plus 2 one-year options. Effective dates from 7/1/2023 to 6/30/2026 and 2 one-year options from 7/1/2026 to 6/30/2028. Account numbers noted. Important safety requirements for many of our city buildings.
okay, Ms. Smith has moved the item. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Mr. Burnett, I believe that brings us to you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4 under Financial Claims Committee reads as follows: authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into a contract with Safe Ground Analytics, Inc. for review analysis services in the amount not to exceed $45,000. Account number noted, tax assessor revaluation, other professional services. This is additional assistance to our current revaluation that's taking place across the city, and these the services that are provided.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Meek is opposed. Carries. Item 5A and 5B, Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move both of them. 5A reads as authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute the order form with Bonfire Interactive LTD for a 3-year term, a total amount not to exceed $47,521.44, annual amount $15,840.48, funding from account number noted. And item B, authorize the purchasing department to issue change orders on the contract for a total not to exceed $4,752, account number noted. We are currently using the Bonfire Interactive service for our various contracts, RFPs that come in, and this system is used to evaluate those various RFPs.
Mr. Burnett has moved item 5A and B. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed. And abstentions? Motion carries. Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 6, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into a 5-year contract with Cablevision Lightpath LLC as a secondary internet service provider, annual amount not to exceed $30,000 for a total not to exceed $150,000, account number noted. This is to provide a secondary ISP support for the city through the IT department.
Thank you. Mr. Burnett has moved item 6. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed. Motion carries. Item 7.
Item 7, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Gov Connection LLC in an amount not to exceed $394,443.77 for 6 Cisco distribution switches, 23 access switches, and 10 uplink modules, account number noted. This request is coming from the IT department to complete our upgrade to our current system.
Mr. Burnett has moved item 7. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed. Abstentions? Motion carries. And Mr. Burnett, item 8.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 8, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement with the Norwalk Housing Authority for the abatement of real property taxes at a rate of 5% of the aggregate rents collected with respect to the Oak Grove Affordable Housing Development for a term of either 16 years from the issuance of certificate of occupancy for the last unit in the project, or 18 years from the date when the parties have signed the agreement, whichever is first. This is a great project for the city of Norwalk for affordable housing. And I believe we have, do I see Lisa Endo?
Is Adam?
No, Adam Bavilski, from the Norwalk Housing Authority, and David McCarthy from Heritage Housing.
Okay, so I will pass the baton to Mr. Bavolsky to give us further information on this great project coming to Norwalk for affordable housing.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett, Councilman Burnett. I was mostly here to answer any questions that the council members might have. This will be 69 units of affordable housing at various rates of affordability, from 30% of the area median income all the way up through 80% of the area median income. Mixed income housing, of course, being the best practice for development to deconcentrate poverty in the area. The financing of a project like this comes from a variety of sources: traditional debt, low-income housing tax credits, but there's no way to make ends meet without a little bit of a break from the city, and that's why we have requested this 5% tax abatement deal. And if David would like to add anything, he can, but again, we're mostly here to answer any questions that council members might have.
Any questions from the council? Any comments from the council? I can't. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Meek.
What is the expected revenue loss to the city, and why would that not be in the agenda? Maybe that second question isn't for you, but I'm just surprised we wouldn't get an absolute dollar amount.
So I can speak to the dollar amount. We would expect the income from the property starting in the second year to be approximately $1.7 million. And that would grow approximately 2% annually. So it would be 5% of that number. I'm not sure I'm prepared to speak to what that would be as terms of a loss for the city.
I said $85,000. That's fair. I'm curious why it's not actually in the agenda. Seems important, but thank you.
Any
I think
further?
I'm sorry. I think it's also important to note that it's an 8-acre parcel that has been sitting, Adam, for I don't know how many years, but an 8-acre parcel that's been sitting for a decade or so that has been undeveloped. So the taxes that have been brought in on that particular parcel have been extremely low for the city. So we'd be looking at an increase even with the tax abatement agreement in place.
Any further comment or discussion?
Yes, thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Burnett.
Mayor. I was just going to ask Mr. Bavolsky or Mr. McCarthy if they can share kind of next steps and when, if they have the information in terms of when the plan to break ground and actual construction, if that is available at this time.
Yeah, of course. So we're planning on closing likely in the very beginning of August. The construction period is expected to be approximately 15 months long. And then we'd love to start leasing up immediately, of course, as soon as that's complete. I might note that in addition to 69 units of housing, there's also going to be a learning center, a community space, a management office, Currently, there's no management office at Colonial Village or Oak Grove, so this will be adding a real presence of staff, of management staff on the development. There'll be a gym in the space as well. And of course, a play activity area for the outdoors for the kids. And just to follow up on what Jessica Vonashek said, because the current pilot agreement for Colonial Village, which goes back to the 1950s, is related to rental income on that property. Since the 1950s, this part of the property, which is just an empty field, has not generated any revenue for the city. So the revenue created here will be an increase in the revenue for the city, dollar for dollar.
Thank you, Mr. Bobilski. Any further comment, questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Shamika is opposed. Abstentions? Motion carries. I believe that covers the agenda unless I'm missing something else.
My motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Revelous. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Meek? Oh, you voted up? Okay. Motion carries. We're adjourned at 9:19.